Welcome to Mary McCorvey Experience Over Expectations podcast, which you can find on YouTube, Substack, and any place you find your podcasts. Be sure to subscribe today.
Welcome to Experience Over Expectation. Today's guest is often called the Entrepreneur Philosopher, and for good reason. At just 7 years old, he treated his own genetic disorder. By 14, he was a published poet. And by 16, he had convinced his family to let him move to America alone. Since then, Sid has built and sold companies, taught philosophy and business strategy at top universities, mentored hundreds of founders, and invested in ventures across every stage. He's a thinker, a doer, and a deeply intentional human being. Please welcome Sid Mohasseb. Sid, welcome to the podcast.
It is an absolute pleasure to be with you, Mary.
Well, thank you so much. You know, you've said that everyone is an entrepreneur, and then that, in fact, you believe that we are born with a gene. And I'd love to know more about that because I happen to believe it as well. I think maybe people of different stripes have more than one gene. I think I'm one of those. But yeah, let's talk a little bit about that.
Of course. So I was curious about this idea of what is an entrepreneur, and obviously I've built a number of companies and so forth, and I've started to look at what is an entrepreneur. At what point was this word created, this idea created? And I went back and did some research, and voila, it was in the 1700s, a French man, an economist, created the word entrepreneur. And here's how he defined it. An entrepreneur is someone who has something, who wishes to exchange it with something of higher value, who has something, who wants to exchange it with something of higher value. And then about 15, 20 years ago, 20 years later, they added the definition of risk. Someone who has something wants to exchange it with something of higher value, knowing that there is risk. That means I want something, but it may not happen. There's a risk of not accomplishing that.
Right.
So notice the definition. Someone who has something. It does not say what that thing is. It's not, could be an idea, could be a product, could be your time. You have something, and you want to exchange this with something of higher value. Again, of higher value is not defined. It's not necessarily money.
That's exactly
it's not
right.
Power.
Yeah.
Could be anything. So you could have your time, you work at some place and you exchange that with some money, and then you bring it home and you take your kids to Disneyland. You just exchange something with something of higher value based on your own definition. But there's a risk. Your son may not like it.
Right.
So
yeah, my experience has been with building companies that people will say to me, Mary, I just don't know how you can do this. It's just so risky. And I would like to know, for me, risk tolerance, you have to be, as an entrepreneur, in what we know the traditional definition is in our world. And I love the way that you were explaining it and defining it. And I want to come back to that. But so for me, risk tolerance is very high. So, for example, I'm a high performance driver and I have high risk tolerance. I create companies. I'm a high risk entrepreneur. How do people that perceive themselves as being low risk, how can they perceive themselves as an entrepreneur?
Sure. So let's unfold risk. First of all, whatever we do, we don't accomplish a task. We take a risk. Let's explore this. I go to the grocery store. I get to drive my car. I think I'm doing a task, driving a car, but there is a risk. The risk may be minimal that I get into an accident.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I drive it at 100 miles an hour, I just increase the risk. So everything we do is risk is embedded in it.
Right.
Everything we do has risk embedded in it. The key thing is, the exchange defines the level of the risk.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to use the same driving. I want to get to my destination faster. I drive faster. Yeah, I'll accomplish being there faster, but I have taken a higher risk getting there.
Mm-hmm.
So when we say an entrepreneur who starts a business, he or she would have some, and by the way, the reason they call me the philosopher guy is because I kind of combine mindfulness in how we think, how we do, how we see the world with entrepreneurship. Because
Mm-hmm.
here's the thing: if I want to define what I'm exchanging with, it's how I look at the world, how I put
Right.
the pieces of the puzzle in my mind, how I look
Mm-hmm.
at risk, commitment, courage, fear, failure, all of those is a package that's emotionally entangling me, that has something to do with reality and where I am, and all of that put together. So if you look at risk, you would see that it has something to do with what we want to exchange with. The
Mm-hmm.
definition of what. Now, by the way, I define Martin Luther King as an entrepreneur. He had
Oh,
something.
tell us how.
He had something. He had some
Mm-hmm.
ideas. He
Right.
had a vision. And he wanted to exchange that with something better. He called it freedom.
Mm-hmm.
So what did he do? He took the risk, which eventually took his life. Gandhi was an entrepreneur. Mother Teresa was an entrepreneur, but we have messed up this definition. So the first thing I want people to understand and realize, and this is where I say it's in our genes, is that we are all acting entrepreneurial every day. Every day we exchange something for something better. And why do we do it? Because there's studies, this is one big one in Texas A&M has done, and other studies, that 500,000 years ago, a gene was developed in all of us. And this gene is completely different from a survival gene. This is us exploring to be thriving, to get better, to be more, to create more. This is where we were not happy living in a cave and we wanted a softer place to sleep on. This is us creating some sort of a tool to be able to hunt better, to eat better, right? Survival is very different than thriving. So it is in all of us. We want better. Now, the definition of better is, again, what's in question, not the fact that we want it. We all want to be more, and we're willing to exchange our situation with a better situation, not doing a task, but accepting a level of risk. Here's the thing, entrepreneurs, you mentioned you've built a number of companies and you have a high tolerance. Entrepreneurs are not risk takers, they're risk navigators.
That's exactly,
Okay.
I totally agree with what you're saying, because even though I have a high tolerance for risk, the first thing that I do going into virtually every situation,
You
and I
evaluate.
is what are the risks involved,
Yeah.
and how do I mitigate those,
Correct. And
right?
how do I have a plan here, and how do I mitigate this, and what's the reality, and who am I, and what's my capability, what's my
Yes.
funding, how do people so all of those comes into it. Risk takers are in Las Vegas gambling.
That's right. That's
So this illusion that all entrepreneurs are risk takers, I'm not a risk taker. No, entrepreneurs are not risk takers, they're risk navigators. How do they
mhm.
navigate? Because they've got a process, a way, a mindfulness way, an awareness of the factors that impacts them, the
And I loved
factors
what
that
you were saying about the driver and going back to that and mindfulness. So we take a risk when we get in the car and go to the grocery store. It's a, we perceive that it's a low risk. It's an even higher risk when we have a baby in the back of in the back seat.
exactly. Exactly.
So the measures that we take, as I'm understanding you, the measures that we take are more mindful because we have someone we're protecting.
We
So
we consider more variables, if you would.
that's exactly right.
We
Yes.
consider more valuable. So let me explain myself with this mindfulness business, because people go to, oh, this is Sid is talking to somebody, and going into a zone in some place on the top of a mountain, thinking, oh, and that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, and those kind of mindfulness, those kind of exercises, they say you have to detach yourself in order to realize who you are, and discover yourself and have empathy for others. Detaching yourself means that you're not looking for an impact
Mm-hmm.
outside of yourself. You're
Mm-hmm.
just trying. Mindfulness has to be actuated, activated, stimulated to accomplish something, because it is the impact that matters. Your next best version, who I am, can only improve, can only be better if we are impactful. That
Mm-hmm.
is, we are able to exchange what we have with that thing we call better.
Right.
Right? That's
Right.
when we're satisfied. That's when we're satisfied. So the idea of being mindful is to be aware that, for example, fear is one big factor, fear of failure. Now, by the way, we have fear of success, which is even worse. I'm on a board of a company. Seriously, we're taking the company public. This is a conversation I had a few days back, and the CEO said, I don't know what's wrong with me, but I'm just nervous. Well, it's fear of success. We're taking the
Mm-hmm.
company in a different direction. This has got much more different dimensions. This and that is impacting his decisions, how he's messing up the conversations that he's having with people,
Right.
because he's afraid of what's coming. Now, here's the thing. People say don't be afraid, be fearless. Mary, it is stupid to be fearless.
I could not agree with you more.
That's a
You,
nonsensical one-liner they put on Instagram, and they're fearless. No, good entrepreneurs are not fearless. Fear is an alarm system. It's like the
yes.
door to my house is broken and my alarm is saying, and I say, oh, I've got to be fearless. No, there's a thief in my house. I can't be fearless. The fire alarm is going on, and I should say, oh, I should be fearless.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to burn the house. That is ridiculous. This mindfulness is about,
Yes.
I am aware of the fears that are approaching me, and I'm working on the solutions to address it. Yes, this is coming, but my task is not to be afraid, is to realize the fear and now see, okay, why is that? Why am I
Right.
afraid? Well, because there are three consequences. Okay, how can I mitigate the bad consequences? How can I mitigate? And then, like water, go around situations,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, like the other thing that people say, fail fast, fail often. Why are we making failure an objective? It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, I want to talk about failure a little bit because there are trends around failure, like what you're saying, fail fast, fail often. And I don't know that that is really the case. Certainly for an entrepreneur, failing is an important tool.
It is.
Yeah,
But it's not an objective. So
no,
the
it's not
difference,
an objective,
correct.
but it has to be recognized, and it has to be accepted, and it has to be to the extent that one can
Absolutely.
figure out the risks
Absolutely.
and mitigate
Absolutely.
the risk acted on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But what I changed that is learn fast, learn up
Yeah.
often. The objective is not failing. The objective is, if it happens that I fail, that means that somehow I miscalculated, the world turned around me, something happened. I miscalculated the direction of not failure, of
Mhm.
success.
Mhm.
But it didn't work that way because there was some elements that, so okay, so learn from this. So my objective is not to fail. My objective is to learn
That's right.
if it
That's right.
happens. If it happens. So
Yeah.
this is what I'm saying, that your perceptions and how you see the world matters, Mary. I recently heard a story that I really liked. Two people were working on a construction site, and someone was passing by, asked the first person, "What do you do?" He says, "Well, I'm digging ditches, laying pipe, making a living." They asked the second person, "What do you do?" He was doing exactly the same thing. He says, "I'm building a hospital so the sick can be cured."
Mm,
Same task, same activity, different perception of
right.
life. It gives you a different view. It gives you a different momentum. It allows you to evaluate risks in different ways. It gives you more purpose in life. It's different. It
Mm.
is entirely our choice, Mary. It is entirely our choice. I think
So,
you mentioned change. So let's talk about change.
well, I want to hold on to failure for just a minute because
Sure.
people dread.
Let's not hold on to failure.
Let's hold on to learning.
That's right.
We'll hold on to learning. So I love that. I absolutely love that. So I learned about failure when I was building a software platform, and I had never been in the software business before. But the thing that I have learned about being an entrepreneur is that I surround myself with people that know what they're doing, the experts. And then I can do what I do best, which is conceive and decide to do it, capitalize and execute. So in that process, it's all the things that we're talking about. And so in the software development, it became clear to me, well, what we're doing here is we are identifying bugs in the system that could make the system fail, right? If we don't identify the bugs, then the system will fail and the customer will not get what they value, right? What they want. And therefore we'll have a bigger failure. So I think something like that is where the idea of fail fast, fail often came from, so that you can iterate, which iterating makes sense, but only if you do it with the right information and
Correct.
decision making.
So let's this is a very good example. I've built two or three software companies and sold them and
Hmm.
so forth. So this idea of solving a bug, and for people that don't know what a bug is, it's essentially a piece of software that fails. It doesn't do what it is supposed to be doing. And when you have thousands and thousands of lines of code, it's very
Hmm.
hard often to find where the flaw is. And it could be a definition of an X variable as opposed to a Y, or it could be something very simple.
Sure.
Uh, Now, here's the thing. If you take people who are working on coding, who are working on building the software with you, they're smart people,
Yes, they
but
are.
they often like to build more than they like to fix.
Yes.
Okay?
That's been my
So
experience as well.
yeah, this is a fact of life. I don't want to be finding bugs all the day. That is that's a horrendous job. I want to learn something. If I'm a programmer, I want to learn some new platform. I want to get there.
Hmm.
So there is an inherent rub between fixing and building. Right? This is a mindset. There are people that are great at finding bugs and fixing bugs. Focus on it. I had one guy that I took him to three different companies. He was just absolutely phenomenal. His life was, I'm going to find this damn thing and I'm going to fix this damn thing. That
Mm.
was, it wasn't facing a failure. It was the success that would come out
That's
after
exactly right.
fixing it. That's
And
a
that
mindset.
makes it exciting.
That makes it exciting. But the
Yes.
objective is not to fail. The objective became, right, to learn why this doesn't work and fixing it. Why this doesn't work and fixing it.
So let's take an everyday person and put them in this situation. So we've got a couple in a home and they're going to build a deck on the back of the house,
Yeah.
right? So from an entrepreneurial standpoint, how do they approach that?
So the first thing is they decided that it is better to have a deck than not to have a deck. Number one, they intentionally decided that they are exchanging what they have, a no deck, with a situation of higher value, a deck. Why
Yes.
would they want a deck? Well, because the kids can go there, because the parents can, because they can have parties out there, because they love to see the sunset and have a drink while they're doing it. They went through some sort of a logical satisfaction process. It wasn't just, I want to have a deck for a deck. Then they figured, okay, so what am I exchanging to get this higher value? So I have something, an opportunity. I want to exchange it with something better. We have a deck, and then they begin to decide, oh, this is going to cost 10,000, 20,000. I can finance it and have $200, or I can have pay $20,000. If I pay $20,000, then I can't go on a vacation this year. Or if I put right, so they
Right.
began to explore and unfold this, which is exploring their options.
Right.
They wanted to exchange. Then they figured which one has less risk. Oh, if I finance this and it's $200 and I make my wife and I make X dollars, it's not going to have an impact on our life. I am exchanging the $200 per month for the enjoyment, the satisfaction, the kids playing, the drink, the view of the view of the ocean or of the sunset on that deck. There is an exchange. That is an entrepreneurial act, and they would do it. Or they would disagree. Say, hey, we can't do this, so let's compromise and have this.
Right.
Okay. So you again made an entrepreneurial decision by saying this task has this level of risk. Financial commitment. Oh, for 6 months they're going to be doing this. These are other risks. The contractor would leave it halfway done, which is pretty likely, by the way. Okay. Or it may not work. Or how about the safety of the kids? If I have a deck, there is a distance they may fall. Okay, so those are all risks.
Right.
You internally begin to optimize those. We do this inherently. We do this because it's in our genes. We do this every day. And I love this deck example because it's great. We experienced an entrepreneurial act by doing that.
Well,
Yeah,
let's talk about change. You brought up change a little bit ago, and I would like to unpack that a little bit because
sure.
people who are risk averse, let's put it that way, or perceive themselves as risk averse, say, I just don't like change. I like everything the way it is.
So I did a TED Talk, Mary, a while back, and I started this way. Imagine, Mary, if it's 72 degrees outside, the birds are chirping, it is the most beautiful day. You are doing exactly, you are who exactly you want it to be. You are the best basketball player. You are the winner of the physics Nobel Prize. You are a singer. You are the mother of two. You have the most beautiful kids. You have everything that you possibly want. Now stop and imagine there is no change. Your 5-year-old is always 5-year-old. Never, ever grows up. Never, ever you see your children's children, your grandchildren.
Hmm.
You you eat McDonald's for lunch. That's what you're gonna eat for the rest of your life. There is no change. Change, Mary, is our best friend. Best friend. There is no other friend better than change because it is the only friend that gives us options. It gives us options. Options to be more prosperous, options to have a deck or not have a deck,
Right.
right? Options to do this or this or this, options to get married, to have children, options to build a house or to options. Without options, there is no progress because you're stuck. And the only thing that gives you options is change. So let's and here's what we do in organizations. We have to control change. There is change management. We want to manage this change. We want to control it. We want to make it not happen. But if it doesn't happen, it is disastrous. The biggest risk in life is not taking a risk. The biggest challenge that we have in our growth and prosperity is to ignore change, is to push back. Now, if we are mindful again, we see the dimensions of change, because here's the other thing. There is a devil in change. There is a devil in change. It could be the shiny new object. Every time you have an option, you want to. I've been on board with CEOs that they implement this technology, and then all of a sudden, there's this bigger technology. They never let this thing settle, and then they switch, and then people become frustrated and say, this too shall pass, and it's all a mess because they are in love with this idea of change. I promote change. I like change. I think it is, but change can misdirect me to a place where it could be disastrous. But that's not the problem of change. That's my problem.
Well, when you think about an entrepreneur, especially someone like me who's a founder, right? That's even a greater level of craziness. But they're inherent in that startup space is that you have to go out, you have to come up with a minimum viable product. You have to go out to the market. You have to see what the market will bear. You have to find out what will happen when you go. And then you may pivot, right? And
these are some of the stuff that I've got to tell you this. We have a global initiative. It's called the Anabasis Academy. And we have something we call a wake-up call. And in the past 3 or 4 weeks, we have tackled exactly those ideas, the pivot, all those stuff. So let's unpack what you just said, because it's important. First of all, minimum viable product. Viable to who? I've been on boards on many times. I've invested in companies. There's a big problem. People say, I have this much money and this much resources. This is what I could build. This is viable. No, this is not viable. Viability has to do with them, the ones who pay for it.
That's exactly right.
It's not me. This is not viable for me. Let's get that out of, And viability means they actually are willing to pay for it. That means they are, and I want to talk about this idea of exchange a little more, because not only I am an entrepreneur, my customers are entrepreneurs.
Because everyone is.
My customers are entrepreneurs. My employees are entrepreneurs. My partners are entrepreneurs. My investors are entrepreneurs. The society as a whole, as a community, is building. And those are the 5 pillars that hold up and any organization. Doesn't matter if it's a donut shop or if it's Microsoft. Those 5 pillars: customers, employees, partners, investors, and the society. They hold up the organization. Those are all subject to these exchanges. So when we say that we have a minimum viable product, it has to be viable to them. And what does viable mean? Viable means that I am satisfied as a buyer, because guess who? Do you have a decision? Do you, Mary, have a decision in a buyer buying, or is that decision entirely theirs? Who makes the decision to buy? Doesn't matter if it's a bottled water.
Oh, it's the customer.
It's they make the decision.
Yes, of course.
This illusion that I make revenue is false. They gave me revenue. I gave them value. I created value. They exchanged that value because of their decisions, because of their entrepreneurial spirit, because they have something, which is money, or their loyalty, and they want to give that to you in exchange for that thing, because it has higher value to them. If they don't trust you, they won't take the risk. If this doesn't have the value, they won't do it. There's an exchange. They're giving you the dollar.
Right.
They're not going to do it. Guess what? Here's another thing. Let's think of employees. We think we give a job description to somebody, and we expect for them to be this and that for a total of $123,000 of salary. Who makes the decision to accept that and work for you?
The employee.
The employee. They do it based on their own terms. Your benefits are good. I have a sick child. That's why I take it. Rent is due. That's why I'll take it. You want me to move to California or move to Florida? I have a girlfriend in Florida. I like to do that. I'm going to go there and then figure out something and a better job. Oh, I'm young. I think that this is a creative place to be. That's why I take the job. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon or 2 o'clock in the morning when I'm sleeping in the bed, I think, should I be creative? I would decide how much productivity I bring to to the table. Not you. I don't care what KPI you create. I decide as the employee how productive I'm going to be because of that exchange. Because I have a gene that says I
Mm-hmm.
want to exchange what I have, my creativity, my time, my ideas, with something better. If you give me that something better, and I decide that's better, maybe it's the money that I pay for rent, maybe it's the creativity, maybe it's the benefits, maybe it's the promotion, whatever it is, I decide as the employee. The same thing applies to your partners, the investors, and the society as a whole.
So how can we, speaking of from business terms, how can we as individuals capitalize on our entrepreneurial dream or gene? I'm sorry.
I love that question. Love that question. So here's the sequence of events. A, you have to realize that you are already an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first thing. You're not training to be a runner. You are a runner. You're training to be a better runner. You're training to go to the Olympics. That doesn't mean you can't run. It's not that you don't have a leg and then you decide, oh, I want to be a runner, so let me go big. No, you are already capable, fully capable of running. You have something, you decide what that is, because we're unique. There's 8 billion people on our planet. There's been 110 billion people on our planet since the beginning of time, and we're all unique, all different. So we have we have different capabilities, different things to offer, different things to exchange, different ideas. We come from, some are poor, some are wealthy, some are smarter, some are not as smarter, some are artistic, we're all different. So we have something though. It's what do I have and what do I want to exchange it with? Step one, I have to realize that I am fully capable. Step two, I have to realize that change is my friend. It's giving me more options. And this thing that I call comfort zone is really my death zone. It's where I
Mm-hmm.
go to be circling around a sandbox like this, thinking that it is comfortable. It's obviously comfortable. It's like, in a cage, you have a bird. And there's studies, research to this. After a while, when you even open the cage door, the bird doesn't fly because it thinks, oh, there's food here, water here. The danger out there is much more in here.
Right.
Never experienced the flight. So the door to the cage is open, but we stay in the cage because we think it's safer. So here's the thing. You don't know the other side is worse than this side. Have you experienced it? And by the way, you have all these options and choices. You're in control of what direction. So step
Mm-hmm.
one, realize that you already have the capability. It's in your genes. Step two, it's this idea that change is not bad. It's the only option that we have. Step three now is, let's begin to be mindful. Mindful
Mm-hmm.
of what? Mindful of, okay, here's a situation. And people say, how do I start? I start, next time you want to go to the grocery store, stop and think, which direction am I going and why? Oh, I'm going to take the long road. I'm going to go to that grocery store because it's cheaper, or this one because the meat is better, or that one because it's I like the person at the butcher person who's nicer. You make a decision based on some parameters. Realize that you are making decisions.
Mm-hmm.
You're in control of those decisions. You are making them, and you are taking a risk. Here's the risk. If I go there, I may be late for my meeting.
Right.
It may take longer. If I go here, it would be right. You make decisions based on all. So exercise your entrepreneurial talent
With mindfulness.
simply with small things. Entrepreneurship is not about being Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos. That is an absolute
No,
nonsensical
I
thing.
absolutely agree.
It's nonsensical. It's just, and this idea of packaged advice, of being practical. Mary, let's give me some practical advice. You don't know me. What is practical for you is not practical for me.
Mm-hmm.
All of this stuff that they put up on, Instagram and Facebook, and this, oh, the 3 ways to make it the practical advice. You don't know who I am. Practical for who? I decide what is practical based on knowing the parameters. I need to explore what commitment means. How
Mm-hmm.
does that relate to risk? And what is risk? And is it a task, or is it? I have to develop a way of looking at fear. I have to develop a way of looking at the failure. I have to develop, right? I have to seek courage, not just as pushing forward, but also having the courage to say, stop. This is the time to pivot,
Mm-hmm.
as you would say. I have to learn that pivoting is not hitting a wall and then turning. It's a dance. I should see that I don't have to hit the wall and face failure before I pivot. I have to see that, hey, I
Mm-hmm.
can do this, that it's a much less risky path to go.
Yes.
So some of these things that has been built, advertised, one-liners that are out there, they are they're just one-liner stuff that may be good for one person is not good for everybody. So we have to find our own way, and the only way to do it, in my opinion, is realize that we are capable. So it's not a capability issue. It's not a talent issue. It's a mindfulness issue.
Mm-hmm.
And then we decide, do we want to build that deck or not to build that deck? Or
Mm-hmm.
maybe I take that $20,000 that I would build that deck and I start a business. Or maybe I put it in the stock market. Or maybe I put it in the college fund for my son or daughter. I make those choices. We do all the time.
Well, Sid, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a delightful conversation, and I really appreciate your perspectives, your philosophical perspectives, and
Crazy, huh,
how,
Mary?
no, I
He's an
don't think
old,
so.
old crazy man who sees the world in a different way.
I don't think that at all, but that's probably because I agree with you. So
So I told you, you said, can you tell why people are entrepreneurs? I hope I've convinced them that they are an entrepreneur.
I hope you have too, because you convinced me. You've convinced me. So, how can people learn more about your philosophical entrepreneurism?
Yeah. So, as I mentioned, we have launched this thing we call the Anabasis Academy. It's Ana means moving up,
Mm-hmm.
basis means the base, Anabasis means moving the base up. Academy. It's the most non-academic academy you will find. There are no tests, there are no certificates, and it's what I call a learning platform where we partner together to learn.
Mm-hmm.
The objective is to provoke and engage. We don't, I cannot motivate you, but I can provoke you.
Mm-hmm.
And we go through this stuff, and we have a series of things. We call it the wake-up calls. Every 2 weeks we bring an entrepreneur. We put them on the hot seat, and we don't talk about what do they do. I mean, for 3 minutes we say, "What do you do?" But the rest of it is about how do you approach failure? How do you do this? How do you right? And we pick these topics. We have an expert circle where we bring people like Marty Cooper, the inventor of cell phone, was my guest, and some others. And again, we drill down on mindful things, not mechanical things.
Mm-hmm.
We don't give you a 1, 2, 3, do this, and you are going to be a trillionaire.
Yeah,
You could figure
that's
that out.
good.
You could figure that out. I
So, is
would.
there a website that
There
people can
is
go to?
anabasisacademy.org, and the basic membership is $1 forever. So you see that my belief is, Mary, that if you can build your next best version and practice your entrepreneurship ability mindfully, and I do the same, and your neighbor does the same, and his neighbor does the same, and her friends do the same, we will have a much, much better place to live. because we're all
Agreed.
exchanging for the better.
Yes. And I appreciate the price point.
Yes.
The price point, and I'm sure that you gave that a lot of thought.
Absolutely.
The
We
price
have
point.
another level. We have another level that extends to other things that's there. We have a collections of things, and we have other things, and that is $27. And somebody did it. They did an analysis. These competitive analysis. They said the amount of content and that's there is one of these $20,000 courses. So that's where you should price it. And I said, no, that's not where I'm pricing it. And here's the difference. We even have people who are paying it forward, and they sponsor new people that are coming in. They pay that $27.
That's great.
The
Okay.
objective is let's get moving. Let's build, let's create, because particularly, Mary, I know that our time is coming. This whole AI thing and this idea of being productive, we're losing who we are in terms of building and create. Look at the status of the world. It's a mess. And I believe our path is entrepreneurship. Our path is to realize that we are able to create more. We are fully able to create more. And with the AI, these all machines doing the mundane, the best thing we can do is to create more. This is the time for the next evolution that we have.
Thank you, Sid. It was great to have you on the program. And Sid Mohasseb.
Mohasseb, it's okay. You've done better than others, Mary. Don't worry.
Thank you so much for being on. We'll see
Absolutely
you
a
again, I
pleasure.
expect.
Thank you so much.
You've been listening to Mary McCorvey's Experience Over Expectations podcast. Be sure to subscribe today on YouTube and Substack, or listen wherever you find your podcasts. Thanks for tuning in.